Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
Mr. Vice President, I'm going off script again, I know, but I just want to personally thank you. We've been through some stuff. We've gone through some of the most complex military operations this country's ever conducted, and your steady hand and your leadership during those was a great source of strength for me. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your character. Thank you for your selfless service. Thank you for commitment. Thank you for being a mentor to me, Mr. Vice President.
It's called the swamp. And you know what happened? And you know what I did? A big favor. I caught the swamp. I caught them all. Let's see what happens. Nobody else could have done that but me. I caught all of this corruption that was going on, and nobody else could have done it. Did I get that one right? Every 4 years, we gather on these steps to carry out the orderly and peaceful transfer of power. Today's ceremony, however, has very special meaning, because today we are not merely transferring power from one administration to another, but we are transferring power from Washington, D.C., and giving it back to you, the people. For too long, a small group in our nation's capital has reaped the rewards of government, while the people have borne the cost. Washington flourished, but the people did not share in its wealth. This American carnage stops right here and stops right now. The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer. From this day forward, a new vision will govern our land. From this day forward, it's going to be only America first.
This is a president of the United States who is a danger to the republic.
America first.
He knows he's an illegitimate president.
The oath of office I take today is an oath of allegiance to all Americans.
The great Trump recovery.
America will never be a socialist country. I will fight for you with every breath in my body.
Russia, Russian, pro-Russian, Russian, Russia, Russian, 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 the Russians.
Russia.
And I will never, ever let you down.
A dangerous virus is spreading rapidly in China, and U.S. officials are very worried that it could come here.
This is really the worst attack we've ever had. This is worse than Pearl Harbor. This is worse than the World Trade Center. There's never been an attack like this.
The time for empty talk is over. Now arrives the hour of action. What they're doing is using COVID to steal an election. Together, we will make America strong again. You know what it's about? Fraud, fake ballots. We will make America wealthy again. They are trying to steal the election.
Now, under the leadership of President Trump, we are fully realizing President Kennedy's prescient view of Special Operations Forces.
We will make America proud again. And watch, please, those mail-in ballots. We will make America safe again. And in millions and millions of ballots, their vote is under what they thought they needed. They're dumping more ballots in there, okay? And yes, together, we will make America great again. Thank you. God bless you. If we are right about the fraud, Joe Biden can't be president.
Congress, the chair declares the joint session dissolved.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Saturday edition of the Devolution Power Hour. Chris, how are you doing, man?
The horrors persist, but so do I.
As always, love hearing that. Weird day for me today. Had my kids all day. I went to see the Minecraft movie. My kids were like, "We got to go to this Minecraft movie." I did not enjoy it as much as they did. That's for sure. But it's my son's favorite movie now.
Wow.
Seen Minecraft, like played Minecraft or been around people who play Minecraft?
I watched a friend's kid play it for 10 minutes once.
Yeah. And now my kids are obsessed, so I'm kind of scared. But it's interesting concept. Whatever.
The game seemed so weird to me, but then again, I remember that like I started playing video games with a line on one side of the screen and a line on the other side of the screen, and a ball would like bounce off the edges of the square. Yeah. So
I sometimes forget
who might have talked, you know?
Yeah, that's true. I had an N64 growing up or whatever.
N64
Zelda
was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was later on in the process. I got the entire, Atari, Commodore 64, PC Junior, computer games into like original Nintendo.
Wait, they had computer games before Nintendo?
Yeah. Yeah. Nintendo was 86, I think.
So like Oregon Trail, like what possible computer games were there?
I mean, I actually think Oregon Trail was later than that, but there were like just really basic games, like a Pac-Man game and these little text-based games where you would, navigate around a castle or something. It was,
Technology's come so far, and now we have AI, and our worlds are about to end because of it. But yeah, it should be an interesting show tonight. Going into it, I was a little concerned. I've missed a lot today. It feels like I missed a lot, but there's a lot of interesting things to talk about, and we will talk about them. Those in the chat, I think I heard we were getting featured tonight. I don't know if we are now, but we'd appreciate if you guys would hit that thumbs up. Always does us a big favor on the leaderboard. We want to get back to our status of every Saturday being the #1 show on that leaderboard. So help us out if you don't mind. A couple housekeeping items before we get into the topics. We got GART coming up real soon.
Mm-hmm.
We did our first exclusive live stream this last Thursday. We're going to do at least one a week until the conference. But yeah, May 1st through the 4th. If you haven't yet, you can get your in-person tickets either for the whole weekend or single day tickets. But if you can't make it, I would encourage you to get a virtual ticket. You don't want to miss out on the shenanigans. You'll get access to an exclusive live stream chat, get behind the scenes photos, videos, whatnot. You'll get to engage with us on stage, even though we don't know exactly how we're going to do the format yet. We're probably going to tweak it like we do every time, and I'm sure it's going to be amazing because it is every time. But yeah, get your tickets. We don't have another one of these till August, so it's a little while, and you're probably going to feel like you're missing out if you don't get your virtual tickets to this one. So there's that, and you know what? I think I'm going to do one sponsor now, and then just remind me to do more later. Don't let me forget the sponsors. Okay, that's your job tonight.
That would be terrible.
It would be terrible. Who do we want to do first? Let's do Field of Greens. If I can get it all pulled up here. Is that playing? There we go. Your crazy schedule makes eating 5 servings of fruits and veggies impossible. We're human. I don't always eat healthy. I have kids. I definitely don't always eat healthy. That's why doctors created Field of Greens. A delicious glass of Field of Greens daily is like nutritional armor for your body. Each fruit and vegetable was doctor selected for a specific health benefit. There's a heart health group, lungs and kidney groups, metabolism, even healthy weight loss. I love the energy I get with Field of Greens, but most of all, I love the confidence that even if I have a cheat day, this is my diet insurance. I can enjoy it guilt-free because Field of Greens, it's nutrition my body needs daily, and only Field of Greens makes you this better health promise. Your doctor will notice your improved health or you get your money back. We can get you started with 20% off on your first order. Use code JOHN at fieldofgreens.com. That's code JOHN at fieldofgreens.com. All right, man. What story do you want to talk about first?
Man, I don't know. There's a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah, I kind of want to do that Miles Taylor one, but I don't know. Or the border one, or let's do Gabbard. Let's play the Gabbard video because I know you've talked about it. I know I've talked about it. But this is like a lot of people are freaking out over this week, and I kind of see it as a nothing burger, same old, same old. And you had a great post on this, and you got some shit for it. And maybe we should address that.
It's probably not worth it. It's like if people are going to get mad at stuff because you're not cheerleading hard enough, and when they don't even understand what the post said, then what are you going to do about that? You got to just laugh and move on. It's pathetic.
Or we could piss them off further and double down. Just kidding. But we will play the video.
We're investigating. We have the best of the best going after this. Election integrity being one of them. We have evidence of how these electronic voting systems have been vulnerable to hackers for a very long time and vulnerable to exploitation to manipulate the results of the votes being cast, which further drives forward your mandate to bring about paper ballots across the country so that voters can have faith in the integrity of our elections.
So she didn't say what everybody says she said, like they have evidence of election fraud in the machines. She said they have evidence of vulnerabilities in the machines and vulnerabilities that hackers can manipulate the vote count. But they don't have evidence of that. She didn't say that. Mm-hmm. What's most interesting to me about this is the timing. On Wednesday's Power Hour, me and Bernie Bright went through the CNN article, and I think I found the CNN article on your Telegram. But it's listing all the things that Trump is doing against the election fraud infrastructure, like cutting CISA and getting rid of the FBI task force and all these things. This came right on the heels of that disclosure, as well as the Chris Krebs, addressing the risks of Chris Krebs. And so the timing of it is very interesting, because on top of all the other aspects of our election fraud apparatus, we have Gabbard talking about the machine specifically, even though she didn't say what we wanted her to say.
Well, yeah. She also said something that, if you've been paying attention to this issue, we've known for a really long time. There's been evidence in public about this stuff for a really long time. The J. Alex Halderman report has had this. That report was filed in like 2019 or something. But it's interesting for the timing that, he had Krebs in there that day. Gretchen Whitmer was actually in the Oval Office watching that with a scowl.
Why was she there?
Strange to talk about bringing certain projects into Michigan. That was the cover story or whatever. And tariffs, of course. But one of the other Trump orders, though, was going after the law firm Sussman and Godfrey, and they're the ones who represented Dominion in the Fox Dominion lawsuit. And so those two things ran concurrent that same day. And then the same day, we got the announcement that a court had ruled against Newsmax, and their lawsuit against Dominion was going to begin on April 28th. And, I'm just focused on Trump's executive order.
Yep.
A few days after that, we hear that the DOJ is dropping pursuit of a contested Georgia election legislation bill from, I think, 2021 or 2022. Yep. And then that same day, they dismissed Curling v. Raffensperger, which was the case containing the J. Alex Halderman report. Yep. So I just wonder if something about those issues being left aside now gives them the opportunity to access that evidence and redeploy it in other areas. So I think that stuff's real interesting. And, CanCon sent us this an hour ago, but Sussman and Godfrey has now filed a lawsuit contesting Trump's EO, calling it all brands of unconstitutional, and it doesn't seem to make any sense. But
okay, two things. I don't want to forget about the Halderman thing you said, because that was brilliant. That's very interesting to me. But I also don't want to forget the Sussman thing either, because didn't Trump post about Sussman on Truth Social saying they bent the knee and are willing to do all this pro bono legal stuff?
I don't think that was Sussman. He had two really long posts yesterday in the morning about 5 different law firms,
and they weren't
none of them yesterday were Sussman.
Okay, were they before though? Because this is like the third time he's posted it. This is the first time with multiple different groups, but we've had 2 other ones before this.
There have been a number of law firms that have made deals with Trump, and all of those deals have within them tens of millions of dollars worth of pro bono legal coverage to essentially take care of issues that they were fighting in the opposite direction on many of them in the years prior. And, you know, he's going after these law firms, this one in particular. It seems like they're being accused of complicity in crimes against America, and they are representing themselves to the court as though all they did was dissent from Trump's political ideology. And that's clearly not true.
Yeah, I mean, discovery on that could get interesting if it does proceed. But what you said about the Haldeman thing, and that case, the Raffensperger case, that was like an 8-year running case. And a lot of people were looking at that as being, okay, this is our baby here. This is what's going to expose election fraud.
I was one of those.
Do you remember Haldeman in court goes up there?
Yep.
And he's like, okay, an election versus, it was George Washington versus Ben Franklin or something. And he put all the vote or 4 of the votes or something to George Washington. And then he was able to switch it so the total came out 2-3 Ben Franklin. Like proving these machines could be hacked and change the outcome of an election in court, in front of the judge and the jury. And then it gets tossed because of standing 8 years later. Like what? It doesn't make any sense. And so the timing of that and the timing of all this stuff, I mean, that is interesting. I haven't heard that perspective yet.
I also wonder if the crazy thing about standing, and I didn't ever really think about this before, but apparently, like in stages of the case, standing can change. Like you can end up having standing for apparently 7 or 8 years and then not have standing. And I wonder what the difference would have been there. And I don't know that this is true. This is speculation. It's a guess. But earlier that day, the DOJ dismisses their contest against the Georgia legislation. So if that Georgia legislation intersects an issue in this case and nullifies one of the plaintiff's pleas for relief, for instance, I wonder if that would affect the standing. And I'm sure that there are probably legal minds in the chat getting angry at me for flubbing something. But
yeah, that's probably Ash or CanCon. But if that's the case, I feel like they would have put it in the dismissal. Like they would have had to say, well, because of this ruling, now you no longer have standing. And I didn't read it, so that could have happened. I have no idea. But
I read like 50% of it to get all the rationale, but did not go into the specificity of the claims. And so I suppose it's possible that it's in there somewhere.
Well, I'm sure Ash will text me or post in here if she's watching. If she's not watching, I'm going to be real disappointed because she's my biggest fan. So, oh, she's in here. I see her. Ash, tell us where we're wrong. So I know you will. Bernie Bright says, what if the case has actually been sitting the whole time? No, I mean, they were doing stuff, though. Like there's hundreds of legal filings in that case. And long ones too, and stuff that we've talked about on this show before multiple times over the past 3-4 years, whatever it's been. So I don't know. That's interesting. But thinking of the Haldeman report being, I mean, we've gone through that too. Like that's out in the public, and Trump referenced that in his December 16 draft executive order. Like he referenced the Haldeman report. That's not insignificant. So if there is election fraud and stuff in the machines, like we believe there are, don't want to get sued. It's hypothetical, whatever. But if that's true, the Haldeman report like exposes it, you know?
Well, the other thing is, you know, like people are always bringing up the point, well, this is going to expose this to extra layers of the normie sphere. And maybe that's true. Maybe it gets it back in the public conversation. It certainly brings it back and gives people a sense, oh yeah, this thing's still going on. There is still a machine thing going on. And that's good. But you know, HBO published a documentary called Kill Chain like 6-7 years ago that features Democrats talking about how messed up the machines are. And people on both sides have largely known that the voting machines are messed up for like 20 years. So, you know, it's a matter of whether or not we're going to admit these things. And I always make the argument, and this is the argument that my post was making the other day, not that people understood it. We have to be able to discern right and wrong for ourselves and move forward on that information rather than waiting for some popular television character to tell us and then we cheer about it. Yeah, this is a pretty straightforward post. Tulsi Gabbard publicly admitted to the existence of evidence that has existed and been readily available to the public for years. It doesn't become true when TV characters say it. I think that that's pretty innocuous, but very triggering, apparently.
Yeah, and I don't understand, what, and this is honestly a point that we've, and you've especially made many times over the past year and a half, 2 years, and every time you get pushback on it, because it's like, you don't think these people know what they're doing? You don't think this is like good for the normies? You don't think all these things? And it's the same argument every time. And I don't know how many times we're gonna have to keep having this argument, but
well, until people understand, like it's my point of view that everyone should try to figure out and understand what the hell is going on in their world so that they can be better prepared to make important decisions, or at least move past issues that they know are good. There's ways that people can and should be protecting their families financially, understanding what's going on there. And instead we get the argument that we're supposed to cheerlead about everything that happens on TV and that's the extent of it. We can't think ahead. We can't express ourselves in other directions as though the people have no say in the future of the country. I don't know what the argument is. And the entire time that point of view is being pushed forward, it's always in the form of a little commie struggle session. And it's just convincing everybody to play at the speed of the television, like the speed of the mainstream media. The time element is one of the most important elements in the fake news phenomenon. And we pretend it's only about people not having the right emotions about how they read the fake news. It's so retarded.
It's also, it's a level of lack of integrity too. And you're almost like lying. Like we're celebrating these people lying too, because that this stuff existed for so long. But on top of that, in terms of oh man, I had a point. Now I lost it. It was something to do with something you said was really good. I wanted to piggyback off it. And
the time thing?
I think so. But no, it was what you said about having a say in the future of the country. Like, what is our point of doing anything if we're not going to advocate our positions or beliefs? Like, if we're just going to wait until people say it's okay to do things, we have zero control over the future. And you've made this point so many times and in much more brilliant ways than I have or can right now. But that's just it. Like, if we have no say, if we're not allowed to criticize things we see that we disagree with, or point out obvious truths that, yes, there was evidence of this many years ago. Like, if we're not allowed to do that, what are we doing here? What are any of us doing here? We should all just get off social media and glue ourselves to the TV and wait and see the plan fall into place.
Yeah. And are we not allowed to express that we would like the plan steered in certain directions? Like, I would like to make sure that we go back to the original Constitution. I think that's a really important thing to do. And if we're just applauding for whatever we are given, that's just like walking up with an empty bowl and asking for more gruel.
That's a good visual. May I have another, sir?
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, but there's that. But okay, so in conjunction with Gabbard and the Chris Krebs, which got a majority of the news, the Chris Krebs thing, and probably rightfully so. Chris Krebs, CISA and everything Trump said about him, that clip of him eviscerating this guy that he claims he never met before. I might have met him, but I don't know for sure. But 3 minutes calling this guy basically Satan. And then there's this other one that he put out at the same time, and it's addressing the leaks associated with an egregious leaker and disseminator of falsehoods. And this is Miles Taylor. And this one is more interesting when you kind of dig into it. And it's based on I think the video you sent. But Miles Taylor was entrusted with the solemn responsibility of federal service, but instead prioritized his own ambition, personal notoriety, and monetary gain over fidelity to his constitutional oath. He stoked ascension. He was that anonymous guy, the other QAnon or whatever. Manufacturing sensationalist reports on the existence of supposed resistance within the federal government. All the BS he was doing during Trump's administration. And then when he left, he got even more public. Like, he wrote a book. He got the Biden admin to give him a green light on a few things. And that's what I think we should go through. And this is the video you sent me, or you had me looking. You texted this the other day. Like, hey man, do you remember this Miles Taylor, something about a binder?
Yep.
And we found it right before the show, and it's worth it. So we're going to watch this and then spin off from here.
Liz Cheney's been talking about that I am also obsessed with is kind of what damage he could do within government without even necessarily breaking the law, like how he could use the levers of government to bend to his will. You've worked in government. What scares you the most?
Well, the possibilities are almost limitless. And I spent nearly 2 years asking that question to people. And I wrote it in this book, Blowback, but to try to paint that picture, to try to understand what he would actually do by talking to all of my former colleagues at different departments and agencies under Trump and asking them that question. What will happen in a second term? The biggest concerns for me are on the national security side. I think Americans still don't understand the full extent of the president's powers and things Donald Trump could do, bubble wrapped in legalese, that would be damaging to the republic. And one of those that I've noted is there's something in the White House called the Doomsday Book. And for the first time, DHS gave authorization for me to mention this publicly. And the fact that there are concerns that that book, which is supposed to be used to protect the country in instances of armed foreign invasion or rebellion, it's the president's most extraordinary powers, could be picked up by Trump and used for domestic political purposes. He could invoke powers we've never heard a president of the United States invoke, potentially to shut down companies or turn off the internet or deploy the U.S. military on U.S. soil. We don't know because, the things that are in there, the emergency powers of the president, aren't widely known to the American people. So that's a big worry for people like me and others about what he could do. But that weaponization of the government could extend across the interagency to places where we haven't seen it before. The Department of Education, the Department of Veterans Affairs, ways to wield that power and those budgets to help his allies and to hurt his enemies. And to be clear, those aren't just elites. To Donald Trump, his enemies include people who live in blue states. I remember him not wanting to deliver emergency aid to blue states because he didn't like them, because they didn't like him.
Wow. I mean, Miles, the Doomsday Book, I think it's safe to say we don't want in Donald Trump's hands.
What's weird about this is this was in 2023.
Yeah. I love how Jen Psaki thinks that it's like something that like Nick Cage is going to discover under a pyramid. Like we don't want it in Donald Trump's hands.
National Doomsday Book treasure.
Yeah.
That's a great point. But okay, so think about what's happening here though. The context of this, like Trump could have access to all these emergency powers. Well, yeah, he already did have that access the first term. You're talking about this leading up to this next time. And so why are they like pointing this out now? And to me, it's interesting because it makes me think like they know he already had like used access to that book. And when you dig into what those are, which did you send me those things?
Yeah. The Time article, it actually was from like 9 months later. There's also, I sent you a 2-minute description of the Time article from the same writer. That's that YouTube link.
Where's that at?
Right at the top of the
oh, there it is.
The studio chat. Yeah.
Okay, let's watch this then. Oh, look at this. I've already watched this video. Apparently.
Hi, it's Brian Bennett. I'm the senior White House correspondent for Time. Let me tell you about the Doomsday Book, what it is, and why former Trump administration officials are concerned about Trump getting a hold of it in the second term. First, what's the Doomsday Book? The Doomsday Book is a set of powers that the president has in extreme circumstances. Think nuclear attack or Congress gets completely wiped out. And they're designed to help the president continue the functions of government until the country can get back on its feet. Now, these powers include suspending habeas corpus, deploying the military in certain parts of the U.S., restricting telecommunications, and other things. And they've been worked out by White House lawyers over decades, and they've drafted draft executive orders with blanks in them that they can be filled out in extreme circumstances, and they are backed up by legal reasoning about a president's constitutional authority and what's in existing law. Why are former Trump administration officials concerned about this? I talked to more than a dozen people who worked at the National Security Council over the decades, and 5 of whom worked in national security for President Trump. They actively tried to keep away information about the extent of these powers from the president when Trump was president. Why? Because they were concerned that he might exaggerate a situation or use them when they weren't appropriate. Another thing to know about this is that there are very few checks on them. If they're used, an American can go to a court and sue and say the president has overstepped, but that takes time. These are things that are designed to be used quickly and in extreme circumstances. And the other thing that I learned about this talking to former Trump administration officials is the number of times that Trump already showed in his first term that he wanted to stretch the limits of presidential power. He did things like move money from the military to build the border wall. He also used the presidency to try to pressure Ukraine into investigating Joe Biden by withholding funds from Ukraine. And he also pressured the Department of Justice to investigate Hillary Clinton, James Comey, Andrew McCabe, people he considered political enemies. The concern that these former Trump administration officials had was that when Trump comes back in the second term, he will be willing to push even farther and might turn to some of these extraordinary powers that are contained inside the presidency, but are designed to be used only when the country is in times of extreme crisis.
They know he used it already. I love how he has The Apprentice on his shelf there too.
But that's some kind of book, right? Probably
about the one the movie was made after.
Oh,
maybe?
I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. It just seems like it's probably an anti-Trump thing.
Probably.
Gosh, it's amazing how casual he is about admitting that the people he talks to subverted the president and basically committed treason. People in the national security community hiding information from the commander in chief. And we are told that when he goes after these people, that it's him pursuing them for their political dissent and that he's overstepping the powers of his office.
Well, yeah, that's like one fascinating aspect of this, but they ran all these talking points and these stories in 2020 during COVID in the lead up to the election. This is almost like a rerun of those stories. I'm just thinking back to my research for the Devolution series, and I read multiple articles about the PEDs and all these different things. And even at the time, like they were concerned, they're like, Trump's going to do something here. Like this is something he could do too, and get away with it. And the fact they brought it up again as like as a tactic or a fear tactic among all the other things they were doing to Trump, like the lawfare and basically trying to assassinate him, whatever, all that stuff. It's just what they know that he used this stuff. I wonder if we're ever going to get confirmation. And Congress was always trying to get access to the PEDs, and they never got it. And we haven't heard anything about those anymore. Those aren't in any congressional bills. We don't have the Protect Our Democracy Act from Adam Schiff trying to get access to the PEDs. Yeah, it's interesting.
It really is. Somebody in the chat, we just got a Rumble rant ready to rumble. Chris said, "Is the Doomsday Book the same as the PEDs?"
Yeah,
and
I think you sent me
that Time magazine, the article by that guy, but also Perplexity. You know, if you just ask the machine what was Trump's Doomsday Book, the first thing it says is the Doomsday Book refers to a classified collection of presidential emergency action documents kept in a secure location at the White House. These documents outline extraordinary powers a U.S. president could invoke during catastrophic events like nuclear attacks or the incapacitation of Congress. Key provisions include suspending habeas corpus, imposing martial law, deploying the military domestically, restricting travel, and controlling telecommunications. And I think one of the really interesting things that he said at the beginning of that video was that all of these have been, that the legal backing for all of these different actions a president can take are embedded in this and argued from the perspective of the regime. So it's not like it's Donald Trump making the argument that there's a legal foundation for these things that he's doing or planning to do or has already done. It's their legal argument that says he can do it.
Yeah, well, I wrote that article in my part 25, if you remember, talking about this, because the Office of Legal Counsel occasionally goes through reviews of all the peds, and they justify, are there still legal, or is there more legal precedent we need for this or whatever? And they assign them to all the different, departments and agencies that are going to be affected by it. Because not every PED affects everything. There might be a PED that's just like the DOD. There might be one that's DHS. There might be one that encompasses everything. But this is where we came across this, Obama, current 56, current 56, current 56, current 56. And then Trump's only 1 year, his first year, is when it came to approximately 56, making me think they changed the number one way or the other, which is interesting. But we haven't had one of these OLC reviews since 2017. There has not been one since 2017. So we don't know.
We'll probably get news about it this week.
That'd be cool. That'd be really cool. Little hat tip. I like those.
Yeah.
Take them when we can get them.
So, man, I mean, that's so interesting. Krebs, the Dominion law firm, and Miles Taylor all on the same day, coming in short order after the election integrity order, the stuff in Georgia, and then Tulsi Gabbard capping it off on Thursday, talking about the machines. And by the way, in that same cabinet meeting, Kristi Noem a little bit earlier had mentioned Real ID and the implementation of that on May 7th, talking about how that would help secure our elections. So we get voter ID at one part of the table, and then down at the end of the table, we get paper ballots. And the paper ballot thing, they count the receipt that the machine spits out that you have to put into another machine as a paper ballot, like the idea that there's some actual paper trail there. Well, that's not true when your vote is contained in the QR code and the machine counts the QR code, and there's never a full auditing of any of that. And that was one of the main issues in Georgia and in Curling v. Raffensperger. So, the paper ballot alone doesn't fix the problem. The voter ID alone doesn't fix the problem. And then, a lot of people have a problem with Real ID because it kind of was introduced, or the legislation was passed after 9/11, and it's been delayed now for 20 years, but people are concerned about a national ID database because of privacy issues, et cetera, which makes sense, but they already have all our stuff.
Oh, for sure.
They have our location data, our purchasing data, and everything that we ever type into our phones, the biometrics when our devices look at us. So
it is interesting. I did a post on Twitter today asking like, hey, I'm out of the loop. What do you guys want us to talk about tonight? I would say half of them were about Real ID. Like everybody's kind of freaking out about it.
Yeah.
You need it to fly, or I could get a passport, I guess. Because I did schedule an appointment for next week to go get my Real ID, because it's May 7th. Like, how am I going to get home from Plymouth? I guess that's before.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's free. I want to show one more thing though. That draft executive order from way back, dated December 16th, December 13th was the day he did all those. Well, it was the day that the Antrim County, Michigan stuff came out, but it was the day he had that series of tweets talking about this election being in protest. And it was the day after the Army-Navy football game where Chris Miller was there, Dean Ratcliffe, and all those people. But he says in here, because of evidence of international and foreign interference in the November 3rd election, and then he goes on, Dominion voting systems and related companies are owned or heavily controlled and influenced by foreign agents, blah, blah, blah. I mean, he goes into details with this stuff about the fraud. He's seen evidence that would make him willing to have a draft executive order of this nature. He wouldn't do that, or wouldn't allow this to be created unless there was evidence that existed. So the evidence is out there.
And Halderman was involved in Antrim. So it's probably that evidence again,
which he showed in court, but they didn't have standing. So, of course, freaking standing. Ash did text me something about it, but I haven't had a chance to read it all.
Sooner or later, the right lawsuit will come along.
Standing is a low bar in the pleading stage, but still has to be proven at trial. Chris is right on the law firm thing. The pro bono work portfolio is near or more than 100 million committed across firms. And the conditions are work that works to make the justice system more fair. It's paraphrasing.
Yeah.
That is massive portfolio. Yeah. So you're right.
Interestingly, with, the way that Sussman Godfrey's challenging it, not to be confused with Michael Sussman. They are the things that Trump is doing in these these presidential actions that go after these law firms is he's going after them for discriminatory hiring practices. He's making sure that the government is no longer giving them contracts. He's taking away their security clearances. Government contracts, whether or not the government's going to engage a given law firm, is something under the president's purview when the agencies are the go-between. And security clearances, he's the commander in chief. He's the plenary authority on security clearances. So that's well within his purview as well. So I don't think they have any argument at all. And I think that the presidential actions have been carefully crafted to, predict that response.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And it's a theme we're already seeing playing out. Like they're using every method they can through the legal process to slow down the Trump agenda. And at some point, you were going to have one of these law firms challenge this and prove that the president essentially has the authority to do it. SCOTUS is going to have to rule on this at some point down the line, and they're going to confirm that Trump is right. It's going to happen. We should get into, unless there's anything else you want to talk about this, we could get into the Crossfire Hurricane stuff. There's not a bunch I want to talk about on it, but they did release finally 700 pages or so of declassified material. But maybe we should do our next sponsor real quick, if you're down with that.
Let's do it.
Okay. Let me pull up. I did get Jessica text me and said that I showed the Field of Greens, or I showed the lean ad for the Field of Greens read last time. So my bad, but I'm going to do the lean one again with the proper picture. Are you a yo-yo dieter? You diet, lose weight, but gain it all back, plus a few extra pounds. Then later you lose it and regain it again and again. It's dangerous, and studies show that it can increase your risk of heart attack, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and other health problems. Breaking free of your yo-yo diet pattern is a main reason doctors created Lean. Lean is a supplement, not an injection, and you don't need a prescription. The science behind Lean is impressive. It studied natural ingredients target weight loss in 3 powerful ways. Lean helps maintain healthy blood sugar, helps control appetite and cravings, and it helps burn fat by converting fat into energy. So listen, if you're tired of losing weight and getting it all back, if you want to lose meaningful weight at a healthy pace, Lean was created just for you. We can get you started with 20% off when you enter John20 at takelean.com. That's code John20 at takelean.com. I think Ash is a advocate for that. I think she's been taking it and seeing some good results. All right, let's talk about the binder real quick. The twice declassified Crossfire Hurricane documents were released, and I honestly haven't read through. I read through Admiral Rogers' thing, and that's it. And a couple of the Peter Stroke texts, but I was like, man, this isn't. It almost doesn't like interest me. This stuff at this point. Is that weird to say?
No, because we've spent so much time on it over the years.
Yeah, it's like, what do we do? Like, this is nothing. There's nothing new here.
Except and it's good that it's no name. It's good that it's coming out for the exact same reasons we described with the Tulsi Gabbard thing. And, I think we both agree or both believe that part of the future includes what I like to call Rico Grande, which is that a giant lawsuit that goes after the entire criminal enterprise at once, proving that they are actually in an enterprise to commit crimes against the country. That's the only way to take the whole thing down at once. We've seen that you're not going to go get one person here and one person there and one person there. And honestly, that style of prosecution is the best way to end up getting limited hangouts in the first place. We're talking about thousands of people who have committed crimes against the United States of America. And that's just like the top level crimes. So
I like to call it Rico Suave, and that's what I titled my article about the same subject. But yeah, I mean, when you look at the timeline of this, this has to be disclose, like narrative field prep for later disclosure. Like that's what it seems like. It's like, we're going to rerun the story. We're going to get people a little excited because this was a huge story for so long. We're going to remind people what happened. We're going to have John Solomon write a few stories, and then we're going to drop the big ones later because we haven't gotten them all. There's no way we got them all from the binder just of what we saw. There's nothing really in there. And I've been looking through stories about it, and I haven't really seen anything we didn't know yet. A couple minor confirmations of like how much Stephen Halper was paid, stuff like that, who wrote the dossier. But the timeline of what actually took place here. This was clearly a collusion to frame Trump. I mean, it was psychological warfare. It was the earliest stages of it in terms of what Trump was up against. But yeah, so didn't really get my jimmies all that rustled.
It's so crazy too. I mean, considering that scandal alone would be the greatest scandal in the nation's history, and it didn't get the job done for them, and they've only gone over the top of that at every stage for 8 more years.
And it's all connected too.
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
That's why what you said, Rico Grant. I mean, it's so true, because they stole the election, or first they did the Russia collusion stuff to delegitimize him, didn't work, covered it up. Then we had impeachment hoax, same people, COVID, same people, stolen election, same people, Biden administration, all the lawfare, same people. It's all connected, all of it, through and through. But yeah, so we're not going to go into details on that story, but figured we should mention it at least because it did happen. I think it happened this week anyway. Should we get into the tariff stuff?
We can. Did you see? I think this is cool, just especially for GART attendees and virtual GART ticket holders who have either gone in the past or watched the GART streams. Yeah. You know, one of the coolest things about these conferences is that we're lucky to have some really interesting individuals there, of course, but one in particular, General Stephen Quast. He's often participating in the conversations. He's getting up and asking questions to kind of spark more discussion, giving some feedback. And it's always really interesting stuff. And I mean, just speaking for myself, it helps me think of, big picture ideas in different ways. And this clip that General Flynn posted this week is like one of those subjects that there's no one I would rather listen to than General Quast on it.
Yeah, he's absolutely brilliant. Him and his wife, they come to, I'm pretty sure they've been to every conference. Mm-hmm. And as far as I know, they've said they plan to come to every conference moving forward. So you can meet this guy at the next GART with the ticket. But yeah, let's take a listen to this.
Energy, the seed corn of all development, all growth, all survival, energy. So energy, transportation, information, and manufacturing. These are the things that change humanity, that will change world power, and they are descending upon us in ways that are very unique. The technology is on the engineering benches today, but most Americans and most in Congress have not had time to really look deeply at what's going on here. But I've had the benefit of 33 years of studying and becoming friends with these engineers and these scientists. This technology can be built today with technology that is not developmental to deliver any human being from any place on planet Earth to any other place in less than an hour. To deliver Wi-Fi from space where you never need a cell tower to connect. To deliver energy from space where you never have to plug your phone in and it trickle charges and you can use that energy over time. It can be applied to cars, to houses. The technology of Edison and Tesla that we live with in our energy environment, our paradigm today, is expensive, it's dangerous, and it's wasteful. Plug it into the wall, but yet that's what we all do because we are used to paradigms. The power of space will change world power forever. And it doesn't have to be a big country to do it. It can be a small island country, let's say New Zealand. Because the technology, if optimized, can change world power, and there's nothing you can do if you don't have that power. The nature of power. You either have it and your values rule, or you do not have it and you must submit. We see that play out again and again in history, and it's playing out now. But we get trapped.
He's so brilliant.
I love what he said there about paradigms too. And I talked about this a bit on my show on Wednesday, and Burning Bright kind of alluded to it the other night on Power Hour. We're kind of in a paradigm shift along a number of verticals, and the experts in a given topic are just clueless about where things are going. Now, Burning Bright kind of made that part of the point. I think that there's some pushback worth giving to that, which is that a lot of them are colluding with the regime and or incentivized by the old model so heavily that they are unwilling to move to a new paradigm and will actively avoid it and dismiss that paradigm, etc. But old ways of thinking are going by the wayside, and not having ourselves burdened with a long-term commitment to the global system of trade, for instance, makes it easier to look at these issues in new ways, trying to get the big picture, see what's really going on, rather than just rehashing these opinions from some professor or economist that we think we've learned from years ago about why tariffs won't work, for instance. And maybe that's not a bad segue into what we're about to discuss.
Well, the paradigm shifting stuff is interesting because when you think of these experts and what they're doing, they're lying. And it's just whether it's intentional or just because they can't find it in themselves to make that shift or what it is. But you're right. It does put us in a position to be more on the nose and more right about what we're interpreting in the news than pretty much anybody else, in my opinion. Slightly biased opinion. But this paradigm shift, I mean, at some point you got to imagine they are going to be forced to acknowledge the reality of what's going on. It's the same thing with Trump, right? Like at some point these people are going to be for Bill Maher. That was totally organic, and he was just not forced at all to realize that Trump is, hey, maybe he's not a bad person. Maybe he is a good dude. Like that was a paradigm shift in a matter of 24 hours, that thing, which I'm not a fan of. I understand the argument for the normies or whatever, but I think it's the whole mainstream media, like new media stuff that this administration's been pushing. If we're being honest, it's been totally bullshit. And if anything, we're going backwards to Bill Maher. We're not even like staying in our own field. We're going to Bill Maher. Bullshit.
It is very strange that people in the truth community are just pushing mainstream media content all the time, being like, hey, look, they're good again, as if that's not their plan.
I mean, have you seen, Trump said, Carolyn Levitt said, all these people said, this administration is going to be the most transparent in history, and it's going to be all about the new media and all this stuff. Can you name one thing that has changed in terms of media access?
Well, I mean, Brian Glenn from our RSBN is always around the president, asking questions and getting feedback on interesting topics. So that's a thumbs up. I know that
wasn't RSBN though always there in his first term? I'm not talking changing from
were
Biden's term,
but they weren't. I don't think they were in the press room, were they?
I don't know.
I mean, I guess we had OAN, like Chanel Rion was in there.
Yeah.
But man, I just remember Kayleigh McEnany and Sarah Sanders, and I think was that it.
It's just they're all credentialed, like they're all credentialed news, like big news organizations. There's no actual new media in there. Like I don't consider RSBN new media.
He might have. I guess I would say that the control of the White House Correspondents Association has been diminished.
Yep.
So
I had Chanel Rion for an interview not long ago, and she agreed with me. Not much has changed. She would do things differently. I would love to see her in charge of. Well, I mean, she does have her own association. She's been trying to advocate for changes there. But yeah, the Bill Maher thing is different. I don't even remember how I got onto that, but it pissed me off, so I had to vent. The shifting paradigms thing. At some point, these people are going to have to be forced to acknowledge the reality of the situation. And I don't know what it's actually going to take for that to happen. If it's going to take their media outlets that are forcing them or maybe paying them to write these articles, the regime-friendly articles or whatever. The Financial Times article that you sent is a perfect example of that too. So maybe we could almost even just read through that thing. But yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I love that Financial Times article. It's really just, I mean, it's from a guy that was, I think it was at the Federal Reserve and American Enterprise Institute, which is a neoconservative think tank. And the other guy was Treasury and OMFIF, which I am forgetting.
They were both former Treasury, I thought.
I thought one was Fed and one was Treasury. Official Monetary and Financial Institutions Forum. So that sounds like another kind of world banking think tank, but yeah, they gave us the traditional understanding of economics. And I think that the thing I've been paying attention to in all of these articles about the tariff thing is that we are going from a system of top-down centralized control over the world's economy to a multipolar, decentralized, fragmented system where nations are speaking up for their own interests, and that centralized control system is breaking down. So the interesting thing about these economists is they all pretend like there is not a top-down centralized system of control and that everything that's happening is just markets and negotiations. They actually pretend that we have a multipolar world order with countries employing America first or Brazil first or Saudi Arabia first kind of policies, and that this is just how economies work. So they describe how economies work to us. And it's like, okay, well, you're describing the results produced by the system, recorded by the system, analyzed and disseminated by the system. You're giving us that traditional analysis from inside that system and in that old structure. And the structure's gone. So it doesn't make any sense.
Well, economy stuff doesn't make sense anyway. The financial stuff, it's so darn confusing for the average person to understand. So they just look at something like this, like, oh, this article is from the Financial Times. They obviously know what they're talking about. We have a former international head of the Federal Reserve and the Treasury. They must know what they're talking about. But the article that they were talking about, or that paper, the thesis or whatever, from this other guy was brilliant. And it was one of the better, and I'm not only like 15 pages into this 40-page document, and my mind was like blown. I had to reread things so many times because it's confusing stuff. But let me get to the bottom of this, and then we should maybe look at, like, 'cause this is their baseline. Like, this is their point. It's amazing that Trump officials seem to be drawn to it when there is another policy that could simultaneously lower the dollar, narrow our trade deficit, reduce interest rates. And I guess we should probably give context. They're talking about the Mar-a-Lago Accords. And they're essentially saying the Trump administration wants to devalue our own dollar, and they're trying to justify why that's a bad idea.
You know, there were a couple good videos, John, about the Mar-a-Lago Accord. Continue, and I'll find these, and maybe we can give people some easy background that way.
Yeah, because I'm not going to be the one to give the proper background. But anyway, so they're saying that the easier way to narrow the trade deficit, reduce interest rates, and put the federal budget on a sustainable path is to cut spending, responsibly raise taxes, F that, and reduce the fiscal deficit. Instead, we get DOGE, tariffs with a half-life of 1.5 hours, threats to our closest allies, and the trashing of America's credibility. It's going to be a long 4 years. But the article that they're talking about was written by, or the thesis, whatever, by this Stephen Moran. And we'll go through that. I just got to share the right screen. So give me a second. Where's my Adobe? What was that noise?
I don't know. Oh. Did you hear something from my end?
Yeah, it sounded like
my dog just snored.
Oh yeah, that's what. Okay, this definitely him.
That's so funny that you could hear that.
That was pretty loud. Okay, do you have those videos? Otherwise,
here's
we
one.
Can go into this.
So just to preface this is an economist from the Council on Foreign Relations. So this is as globalist as you can possibly get.
Yep.
Accord is a set of economic policy proposals you're not going to want to ignore. Most people think of Mar-a-Lago as U.S. President Trump's Florida home, but increasingly in financial markets, Mar-a-Lago means something else, the Mar-a-Lago Accord. It's a series of policy proposals put forward by Stephen Miran, the chair of the Council of Economic Advisors. The goal of the Accord is to support U.S. manufacturing, and if it is implemented, it could mark the biggest change in global bond and currency markets that we've seen since the 1980s. I'm Rebecca Patterson, a senior fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations. I've also been a global investor and economic researcher for nearly 30 years.
Globalist.
The Mar-a-Lago Accord can really be thought of as 5 basic steps. Step 1 is tariffs, helping manufacturers in the U.S. by making them more competitive compared to imports. That's well underway. Step 2 is combining trade and tariffs with defense. If foreign countries want to stay under the U.S. security umbrella, they have to pay for it, maybe with tariffs, with major investments in the U.S., or other actions. Step 3 is keeping the dollar the global reserve currency, but weakening it at the same time. President Trump knows that a global reserve currency gives the United States geopolitical leverage. At the same time, a weaker dollar can support exports, and that helps manufacturing. So how to get there? One idea in the Mar-a-Lago Accord is to have foreign governments switch some of its current Treasury holdings into much longer duration bonds. Now, Step 4 is a fix if Step 3 can't move forward, and that's basically the United States acting unilaterally to weaken the dollar, directly buying foreign currencies, or perhaps considering something like a tax on foreign capital inflows to the United States. Step 5 is the Federal Reserve, really supporting these policies and intervening if needed. First, of course, is the bond market. Swapping Treasury holdings into less liquid, much longer-term bonds could create volatility that would ripple through financial markets and potentially slow economic growth. Similarly with the dollar, back in 1985, when countries came together at the Plaza Accord to weaken the dollar, it went too far. It was disorderly, and they had to intervene again in 1987 to stabilize things. We could see a repeat of that. And then finally, more structurally, my worry would be that if these policies are pursued, it could slow foreign investment into the United States. It could raise interest rates in a sustained way that would affect borrowing costs for households and businesses. And potentially, it could raise questions about the Federal Reserve's independence. Both political parties today agree on supporting the U.S. manufacturing sector, and all politicians know that policies come with costs and benefits. I think the question with the Mar-a-Lago Accord is whether this set of policies is going to have enough benefits to justify the potential costs.
I want to rewind it to the consequences part right here. I just want to listen to this one part.
Policies and intervening if needed. First, of course, is the bond market. Swapping Treasury holdings into less liquid, much longer-term bonds could create volatility that would ripple through financial markets and potentially slow economic growth.
So that right there, what she says, this is actually something we've been talking about, especially me and Burning Bright. I want to get that graphic up right here. We've been talking about this, but we've been talking about it in the reverse. Like as the stock market gets crazier and people get, scared, worried, whatever, they typically go to the bond market. And that when you buy more bonds, or treasuries, it lowers interest rates. But they're talking about it the other way around, which I think is interesting. But it makes me wonder if it just gives me a different perspective on the tariffs. If Trump is doing the tariff thing and the way he's doing it in order to create that fear on purpose to get people to go to the bond and treasury market and affect the rates. You know what I mean? Like
it does seem, I mean, I know that neither of us have made it all the way through the Mar-a-Lago Accord document. But it does seem from the, 20-25% of it that I've read so far, and I know you've read more, but it seemed to me like the program is laid out with all of these different steps working together, meant to achieve a certain outcome. And the outcome that they're going for is totally untenable for people like the Council on Foreign Relations and writers from the American Enterprise Institute, former Fed, former Treasury. I just combined those. Those are the sorts of people who don't want to see that paradigm shift. And it's being talked about in relation to the Plaza Accord in 1985 and Bretton Woods as like, this is a new economic system that's being implemented. And, that's part of the Great Reset too. So
100%.
It was always scripted that something was going to happen. So it's a matter of what happens, how it happens, and how the public understands it.
Yeah. And so speaking of what is the point of what they laid out here, it's to reshape the entire global currency market, like everything. It's to reshape how everything is done. That's Trump's goal. And this guy, he wrote this thing in November of 2024. I'm honestly kind of surprised we haven't seen this yet. November of 2024. The desire to reform the global trading system and put American industry on fair ground with the rest of the world. This guy, Stephen Moran, he's at Hudson Bay Capital. He's currently the chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors. He was the senior advisor for economic policy at the Treasury, where he assisted with fiscal policy during the pandemic recession. So he was there when they printed all that money, which sparked off all that inflation under Biden, which was a part of why Trump got reelected in the fake election. Like that's interesting to me. And I'm not sure I even understand fully why, but that is notable.
Well, I mean, if you look at the very deadly pandemic as a cover story over that first initial part of the economic reset, then it makes a lot of sense that that would have been the early stages that would then lead to this later on.
Yeah. I highlighted a bunch of stuff. I don't know if you need to go through all of it because it gets a little specific, but I just read something. I was like, man, that's brilliant. How come I haven't heard this phrase that way before? President Trump has praised the reserve status of the dollar and threatened to punish countries that stop using the dollar for reserve purposes. And that's a biggie because he's mentioned that many times on the campaign trail, especially with the formation of BRICS, talking about the dollar and them not using the dollar. I expect these tensions will be resolved by a suite of policies designed to increase burden sharing among trading and security partners. Rather than attempting to end the use of the dollar as the global reserve currency, the Trump admin can attempt to find ways to capture back some of the benefits other nations receive from our reserve provision. This is going to be something that's going to be in every one of these tariff deals that we see come, because we have 70 plus countries coming to the White House. They're going to sign deals. That's why he paused the tariffs, right? I bet we see something having to do with the reserves as part of those tariff deals.
Yeah. You know, one of the other interesting things in some of the coverage that I was reading and watching today of the Mar-a-Lago Accord, and, you know, a lot of this stuff that's happening now, it's worth noting the regime freakout that these articles and videos were from the middle of March. So it's been a month in the making, and they are pretending that this isn't what he's doing. They laid it out and how bad it would be, but now they're trying to address each piece of it. Like, oh, look, the stock market is freaking out. They're ignoring the big picture plan. They're not reporting that this is what's being implemented. Here's how it's going to go down. Watch for it. It's just, you should be scared about every single part of this that they implement. And I was going to say, in some of the coverage, they were saying basically that Trump was threatening the independence of the Fed. And that's one of those things that to our ears would be like, well, yeah, good. The Fed's not independent unless you are being honest and admitting that the Fed is the bagmen, middlemen of the global regime banking system.
It's propaganda, though. I mean, if they actually explain what's going on, then they can't keep their viewers in fear, and they can't try to justify the stealing of any of these elections. You know what I mean? This is what I love about what Trump is doing here too, is he's turning everything into a national security threat. Like everything, doesn't matter what it is, it's a national security threat. We don't manufacture enough lumber. That's a national security threat. Our tariffs policy, these are all national security threats now. And this is a great point he made in here. And remember, guys, November of 2024, this is the roadmap of what we're seeing play out right now. And we should almost post this in the chat. Do you have the link for this? Because I'm using Adobe on this right now.
Yes. Give me just a second.
But I'm going to read this. Both China and Russia, as not only trade but security threats, having a robust and well-diversified manufacturing sector is of renewed necessity. If you have no supply chains with which to produce weapons and defense systems, you have no national security. As President Trump argued, if you don't have steel, you don't have a country. Brilliant. I want to get down to my next highlighted point. Let's see if it's worth it. This Triffin thing was interesting too. I mean, we could spend a whole hour on just talking about the Triffin stuff, but it might be a little too much.
It would probably be too much for me.
Yeah.
I'm not like, this is not an area of expertise for me. So
not for me either.
totally in a learning phase on all of this.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. But some of the stuff is interesting. I mean, it's easily understandable. U.S. Treasuries become exported products which fuel the global trade system. In exporting U.S. Treasuries, America receives foreign currency, which is then spent usually on imported goods. America runs large current account deficits, not because it imports too much, but it imports too much because it must export U.S. Treasuries to provide reserve assets and facilitate global growth. And then the tipping point he's talking about here. The tipping point is reached. Your dog is snoring like crazy. That's so funny.
That's so funny that you can hear him.
Yeah. It is reached at which such deficits grow large enough to induce credit risk in the reserve asset. And that's the part where I've fully been expecting us to default at some point. Right? Like Trump has said that directly, that we were going to default, but it hasn't happened. And he's talking about the credit risk here. It might be possible based on how they're doing things and how he explains it so far in this thesis or whatever this is, that we don't need to actually do that, which makes me wonder why Trump said we were going to have to default at some point previously, you know?
Well, it's funny that he's also pushing, like, on a daily basis, Mike Johnson's big, beautiful package, because, like, the more that package plans to spend, the more this problem is exacerbated and accelerated, in which I would assume causes or increases the necessity for certain fixes.
Yeah. How's that not been signed yet? I'm so confused by our budget process because we had 3 fear porn sessions now in the past like 6 months about passing a bill, and we barely make it across the deadline, but somehow it's not done yet. Like, we passed it, but it's not done yet. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, the House passed it, and then the Senate's going to have to pass it, but the Senate's not going to pass it, just like they're not going to pass the SAVE Act, even though that passed the House this week too. So,
but no, do you remember, like, a month ago, wasn't it? It's like, finally, guys, this time we're not going to kick the can down the road. Last second, they came out with, they passed the thing, but apparently the thing didn't actually pass. They just passed the idea of the thing, and they still had to pass the real thing later. Doesn't make any sense. I also thought this was, did you get this far to the, I think you said you got to page 10. Reserve nation status comes with 3 major consequences: somewhat cheaper borrowing, more expensive currency, and the ability to pursue security goals via the financial system. That is what we're seeing right now, this last point. He's using the tariffs as leverage. Like, he's using our status as a reserve system and leveraging that against all these other countries like nobody's ever done before.
Well, he's also using the leverage point of us being the security system for all of these other countries. Yeah, I think that's another big part of this. And one of the things that really struck me was thinking about the ways that currencies are valued relative to one another and the manipulation that goes on there. When you again consider that we're talking about a top-down centralized control system over the value of currencies, it makes it so that one country can sell to another more than they would be able to otherwise, and you preference one country's goods over another, and they're able to do this through the manipulation of the currency from that top-down centralized control structure. And when that thing goes away, then that part of the system too, you would assume, would have to break down and would reorganize in a more natural way, minus the control system.
Yeah, this is, I'm gonna read this part, because this part says power projection, something we've talked about a lot. I don't know if you got here. This is page 11, so you're on the cusp of it. The trade-off is thus between export competitiveness and financial power projection, because power projection is inextricable from the global security order America underwrites. We need to understand the question of reserve status as intertwined with national security. America provides a global defense shield to liberal democracies, and in exchange, America receives the benefits of reserve status, and as we are grappling with today, the burdens. This connection helps explain why President Trump views other nations as taking advantage of America in both defense and trade simultaneously. The defense umbrella and our trade deficits are linked through the currency. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not even sure I know why, but I know it is. I couldn't explain to you why, but it is interesting. There's this guy that I met at this last Gart in Vegas. His name's Peter, and he's been emailing me like economic stuff, and he's so good. And but he hasn't emailed me in a little while because he's busy being in the financial world. So if you're watching, Peter, I need you to explain this to me like I'm 5. Moreover, because many in the Trump camp see trade policy and national security as inextricably intertwined, many interventions will be targeted at industrial plant critical to security to the extent they can. National security will likely become ever more broadly conceived, for instance, to include products like semiconductors and pharmaceuticals. Isn't that interesting? Semiconductors.
There was an article in The Economist, another one of these, global mouthpiece outlets this week, about how one of China's key leverage points was rare earths. So it's always rare earths. And it's funny, at the end of the article, it actually mentioned that China and Japan had a dispute over exports of rare earths from China to Japan. So Japan, in response, just went ahead and started innovating out of the need for rare earths. So the most important thing in the world, we're told right now, the key to the Ukraine deal, rare earths. And apparently you can just innovate your way out of that problem.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating. I think I want to read the conclusion, and then we can maybe
cool,
even though we haven't read through the rest of it. But I think this will kind of hammer the point home. Just reading the last paragraph does. The next Trump term presents potential for sweeping change in the international economic system, and possible accompanying volatility. It is important for investors to understand the tools that might be employed for such purposes, as well as the means by which government may attempt to avoid unwelcome consequences. This essay attempts to provide a user's guide, a survey of some tools, their economic and market consequences, and steps that can be taken to mitigate unwanted side effects. Wall Street consensus that administration has no means by which to affect the foreign exchange value of the dollar, should it desire to do so, is wrong. Government has many means of doing so, both multilaterally and unilaterally. Put my glasses on. No matter what approach it takes, however, attention must be paid to steps to minimize volatility. Assistance from trading partners or the Federal Reserve can be helpful in doing so. That's an interesting point too, because Powell has not helped at all to this point. He's been arguing against it, but me and Bernie Bright were talking the other day, and I think Bernie Bright nailed it. He's in a pincer. He's gonna be forced to soon, probably.
Yeah, or there might be a fight over Trump removing him or something.
That'd be cool. I love those fights.
Yeah.
In any case, because President Trump has shown tariffs are a means by which he can successfully extract negotiating leverage and revenue from trading partners, it is quite likely that tariffs are used prior to any currency tools. That's interesting, because that's what we're seeing happen. Because tariffs are USD positive, it will be important for investors to understand the sequencing of reforms to the international trading system. The dollar is likely to strengthen before it reverses. If it does so, there is a path by which the Trump administration can reconfigure the global trading and financial systems to America's benefit, but it is narrow and will require careful planning, precise execution, and attention to steps to minimize adverse consequences. And this guy is in the fold, in the mix, planning this shit out.
Yeah. And so this is one of the most interesting dynamics, I think, because, we've talked about it a bunch, and I've talked about it on my show a bunch. We know that the Great Reset plan is still moving forward. We've seen it still moving forward. And we want to be able to take a different direction from that. And we can see that the plan, central bank digital currencies and whatnot, the other party that Trump is operating in opposition to seems to be the global regime and its elements around the world and all the various countries where it's the controlling factor, which I think is at this point predominantly Europe. And those countries are still trying to keep the old system, but they're also the places that have been more prominently pursuing a central bank digital currency. And so he's laying out, there's also this way that we can do this in an America First way that's going to benefit America First, and it's going to keep us away from the central bank digital currencies. And if that's what we're headed toward, I guess good, considering the alternative or what we understand about the alternative.
Yeah, and I think even the larger point there too is not only does it benefit America, but these other countries are going to benefit themselves in the process.
Yeah.
Like it's the decoupling. It's the getting away from the globalization, which is what the enemy wants. They want the globalization. Trump is advocating the opposite, and these are the steps it takes to get there.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting. But yeah, you guys should all go read this thing, and if you understand it, let me know. And I appreciate it. But yeah, it's brilliant. Did you post the link in there? If not, I can do it here too.
I did, yeah.
Okay. And I'll get it posted in the description of this video. By the way, how many we have watching? We got like 15,000. Guys, hit that thumbs up. We'd appreciate it. I kind of want to get to the border thing next, unless you had anything else on this. I don't remember what else we had pulled up.
Oh, the border thing's interesting. I actually haven't looked at that. I saw some headlines and did not get into it. And I guess I should have, because I wasn't thinking, oh, that sounds as devolution-y as I'm now thinking it sounds.
Yeah, well, I'll read through it because I'm torn on it a little bit. You know what? Let me do one of our Rumble ad reads quick, and then we'll hit that. Except I don't have any ads available in Rumble Studio. Oh, that's not true. I have Trump made America great again. Let's see what this is.
I love that it's just like a grab bag.
Oh, I pressed play on the ad, so I'm going to read it. Is that all it is? Grab bag? Sounds awesome.
No, I don't know. I was saying that, like, what ad we're going to do next is a grab bag.
Well, we're trying to support Rumble and Rumble Studio.
Yeah, I love it. I'm down.
But maybe this is going to be a grab bag too. Maybe that's what we're advertising. I don't know yet. It's going to be a surprise, just like whatever that one was last week. That was hilarious. Anyway, since the ad is 30 seconds in already, show your support for the 45th and 47th president of the USA, Donald J. Trump, with their quality Trump made America great again merchandise. What in the world? From there, iconic hats to bold t-shirts that make a statement. Every item is crafted for quality and designed to last. Perfect for rallies, everyday wear, or showing your patriotism loud and proud. Get your order in before the holiday rush. I think you just scan the Trump shop tmega.shop. That's what it says on the thing. They don't give a website for this in the ad read. So since they review all these ad reads, Rumble, and you're watching this right now, I would recommend you put a website in the ad read for us to plug other than the carrier code. But thank you.
Well, wait, there's the, oh yeah.
We're probably not getting paid for that one.
No, I think we will.
We'll see.
You still did a great job.
They probably have grab bags at a merchandise website. Definitely nailed it. Okay, let's talk about the border thing. So Trump, let me find the Zero Hedge article on this. I do have the order, but the way people are talking about it is what interested me the most, I think. Here we go. Share my screen. Okay, so Zero Hedge, Trump orders military to seal southern border as U.S. accelerates hemispheric defense. I'm going to read this guy's response to it because it's pretty good. And it's one interpretation of it. I agree with it in part, not in whole. And then we'll go and read the actual order that he put, because I think that's where there's a divide here. Trump just gave the military direct orders to seal the southern border, not support, not observe, seal it like a war zone. It's all part of a larger doctrine, hemispheric defense. That means North, Central, South America are the new priority battlefield, not just for drugs or illegals, but for the economic control, national security, and future war footing. This isn't just about the wall. This is about a full-blown military perimeter from the Arctic to the Panama. He invoked Executive Order 14167 in a national emergency declaration. 4 departments now report to the Pentagon on this: Defense, Homeland Security, Interior, and Agriculture. Why agriculture? Because they own a ton of federal land being turned into defense zones. DoD has 45 days to scale this from a single sector to full-blown national border lockdown. They'll build barriers, install military surveillance infrastructure, and classify zones as national defense areas. That's not policing, that's war protocol. And I agree with what he's saying about this, but what I would like your opinion on when we get there is whether or not this is what the order actually says, or the memorandum actually says.
Okay.
2 months of spy plane intel already happened. That's true. Cartels labeled as terrorists. True. Drone strikes were considered, We're not far from seeing that happen. The signal is clear. Military solutions are now fair game on domestic soil if the threat is big enough. And this is bigger than immigration. It's economic war, financial war, narco-terror war. The target, Chinese triads and cartel banking networks embedded inside North American systems. TD Bank just got hit. More will follow. This is 4D warfare. Bullets, banks, borders, and bytes. Oh, he should have said 4B warfare. That would have been way more fitting. What's coming is a continental lockdown. Canada and the US getting tighter economically. Central America getting militarized. Greenland, not a chunk of ice anymore. It's a forward post. Panama Canal, strategic choke point. All of this is prepping the West to clash with China by 2030. If you think this is just about migrants, you're asleep. This is a global war being staged continent by continent, and America just shifted into a full combat stance on its own soil. I agree with a lot of like how he's framing that. Like really good, especially like the second half of that when he gets into the bigger picture of what this means. But let's look at the actual memorandum that came out today. And it's not like all that long. But I think we should read through it. As a chief, well, do you have anything to comment first, or do you want to?
I always bristle when I hear that we're going to end up in kinetic war with China. I don't. That doesn't make much sense to me. You know, the saber rattling about Iran. We've seen these phases go through over the years. You know, the Iran nuke thing is a mirror of the little rocket man era back in Trump's first term. You know, maybe it's worth playing this. I can find it just from here. This is Trump about Xi just the other day. Did you see this?
They've really taken advantage of our country for a long period of time. They've ripped us off beyond nobody. How people stood for it, sitting in my position, is not even believable. And we're talking about many presidents, not just a couple. But they did, and all we're doing is putting it back in shape. We're resetting the table. And I'm sure that we'll be able to get along very well. I have great respect for President Xi. He's been, in a true sense, he's been a friend of mine for a long period of time. And I think that we'll end up working out something that's very good for both countries. I look forward to it.
I mean, we're concerned. We're going to militarize the entire continent because we're concerned about kinetic war brought upon us by Xi Jinping. That does not make sense to me.
Yeah, I don't see that either. It's like, we're not going to go invade China. And do they think they're going to come invade us?
No. And so what do we worry about then? Is it foreign militaries from countries that we were told were our allies? It's probably cartels, which I just kind of reframe as private armies of the global regime.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
100% accurate. I would agree with that. Okay, yeah. Let me read through this. As the Chief Executive and Commander-in-Chief of the United States, empowers me to direct the various elements of the executive branch to protect our homeland and ensure the territorial integrity and sovereignty of the United States in the manner I deem most efficient and effective, consistent with applicable law. Our southern border is under attack from a variety of threats. The complexity of the current situation requires that our military take more direct role in securing our southern border than in the recent past. And he talks about his previous executive orders. He assigned the armed forces of the United States the military missions of repelling the invasion and sealing the United States southern border from unlawful entry to maintain the sovereignty, territorial integrity, and security of the United States. This offers additional guidance in securing the southern border. And so to accomplish this, these are the appropriate actions they're going to take to provide for the use and jurisdiction by the Department of Defense over such federal lands, including the Roosevelt Reservation and excluding federal Indian reservations, that are reasonably necessary to enable military activities directed in this memorandum, including border barrier construction and emplacement of detection and monitoring equipment. I'm curious where this is. I didn't even look it up earlier.
While you're taking a look at that, here, I'm going to put this up on screen for a second, John.
It's like right on the border.
Worth remembering, this is from March 1st, Trump on Truth Social talking about how the invasion of the country is over And he reiterated that in a post the next day when he said, illegal border crossings last month were the lowest ever recorded. Thank you. And so it's interesting the timing that this is all happening if the invasion is over.
That was March?
March 1st, yeah.
Wow. That is interesting. The Roosevelt Reservation looks like it is right on the border. Like right on the border.
What state is that? Or
that's Texas. Or no, that's
New
it's hard
Mexico?
to tell with this.
I think
Yeah,
that's
it's
probably New
Mexico.
Mexico.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Okay, let me go back to this. So they're going to be building. They're going to get federal lands now along the border, and the military's going to be building border there. So maybe they didn't have access to do that before. It does make sense, but they felt the need to specify it in this memorandum to provide for transfer and acceptance of jurisdiction over such federal lands in accordance with applicable law to enable military activities directed in this memo to occur on military installation under the jurisdiction of the Department of Defense and for the designation of such federal lands as national defense areas by the Secretary of Defense. So they're just reclassifying federal lands into national defense areas. That's interesting. The Secretary of the Interior, Mr. Doug Burgum, my boy, North Dakota boy, shall allow the Secretary of Defense to use those portions of the Roosevelt Reservation not yet transferred or withdrawn under this memo in accordance with proclamation of the national emergency. I wonder what this is. I'll have to look that up. But anyway, it's hereby invoked, and the Secretary of the Interior may make withdrawals, reservations. Yeah, it's all about the federal land. The only time sealing is mentioned in this is at the beginning when he says he previously ordered them to seal the border. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But all of the articles about this talk about, and what I just read to you guys talked about sealing it now. You know what I mean?
Have you gone in on what national defense areas are?
I haven't yet. No, we should do it.
So I just asked the machine, and I'll go ahead and pull this up. This is Perplexity. And it's kind of interesting. So I asked what the difference was between federal lands and national defense areas. And let's just focus on the national defense areas. Ownership and management. It says these lands are controlled by the Department of Defense and include military bases, testing ranges, and reservations. They're used exclusively for national security, training, weapons testing, and defensive operations, like the White Sands Missile Range. They are restricted to public access. DoD administers about 8.8 million acres, 1% of federal land, concentrated in specific locations like New Mexico.
Interesting.
So,
Was there parts of the Roosevelt Reservation that already weren't part of national defense area?
Wait, you mean were parts already national defense areas before?
Yeah.
Not designated as national defense areas. Department of Interior, established in 1907.
Well, which
military control. The shift raises concerns about potential Posse Comitatus Act violations.
Hell
It
yeah.
may involve active duty troops in immigration enforcement. So, it's funny because that kind of, and maybe it's just because we talked about the Doomsday Book stuff earlier and watched Miles Taylor and that guy Bennett from Time freak out about the possibility that Trump might deploy the military on U.S. soil, but that's Trump deploying the military on U.S. soil. It sounds like.
For sure. But, one constitutional exception to Posse Comitatus is Homeland Defense.
Yeah. And I mean, also, unless we are like condoning a military force that goes around the world waging war, then you would expect that the only place the military would be fighting would be on our soil to protect the nation from invasion.
That's a great point too. But there are people out there who do advocate for that. People going all over the place. But yeah, I mean, if we're getting away from the kinetic warfare like we've grown accustomed to, this is the only place we see the military operate, protecting the homeland.
Yeah. And it's just another one of those examples where we've kind of been brainwashed and indoctrinated and coaxed our whole lives into believing that the way they say, oh, the president's not allowed to do this. Like, that's just, we should take that for granted, that they were telling us the truth and analyzing it properly and accounting for the fact that maybe people had other opinions about what the Constitution says, or maybe it says something and the current law is in total conflict with that and therefore a nullity. So,
and wasn't the Posse Comitatus Act passed after Lincoln was assassinated?
I am not going to commit to knowing that history.
I'm pretty sure it was in. I'm pretty sure it was. It was in the 1880s or 1870s. I'm pretty sure it was after he was assassinated.
Let's find out.
And when was the 14th Amendment passed? I bet they were around the same time.
So Posse Comitatus was 1878 by Rutherford B. Hayes.
Okay. And when was 14th Amendment?
That was downstream. I think that was like 1870.
70?
Or late 60s or something.
So it's unconstitutional anyway.
Yeah, right. 14th Amendment was 1868, so 10-year difference.
Okay. Interesting. I think that's all I got for shit to talk about.
You know what else we can talk about? I sent you the link for Trump's entrance into UFC. I think Storm Has Arrived 17 put that up earlier.
Yeah, I'll grab that.
So
this is.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead. I think we're going to say the same thing.
I was just going to say I love seeing these things because it's kind of like a mandate proof.
That's what I was going to say.
Well,
here we go. And especially in a week after all the tariff stuff and the market stuff, and everybody hates Trump, and these things are perfect.
Making the entrance right now to a standing ovation, the 47th president of the United States of America, flanked by UFC CEO Dana White and others, Donald J. Trump.
Is there anybody else that has a walk-in other than a fighter? I mean, he has some music. Kid Rock starts playing.
He had one at the NCAA tournament too. He always gets a walkout. It's like a prerequisite for him coming. Give him the walkout. People love it.
They do.
Well, and what he loves is mixed martial arts, right? I mean, he talks about watching these fight nights when he is not in the building. And President Trump making his way to the octagon yet again for a massive UFC pay-per-view event.
Got to talk to him about the fights. He really loves fights.
He loves it. Prelim fights. Think about this.
Was that Portnoy?
Yeah. Did you see what he did this week?
No. What with the tariff, the betting, or something?
I'll get the clip. We'll play that next.
Right.
The fights. That's a crazy thought. Like, it's a crazy thought. He's at the White House. The fights are on.
Look at this. Watch this.
It's insane.
Did you catch that?
No, I was
rewind 10 seconds and watch Cheryl Hines.
Pretty incredible.
Crazy. It's insane.
Oh, she's so offended too.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Great to have
Is that Tulsi?
the president with us once again.
And Rubio?
Oh, yeah, Rubio.
Look at this whole cabinet there.
Yeah. I think we should call them a cast.
Yeah.
That magic? No. Did you see Shaquille O'Neal with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. earlier?
No.
There was a picture of RFK and Shaq that I saw. And it is absolutely crazy how massive Shaquille O'Neal is. Like, he has his hands like on these two guys' one of them's RFK. I don't know who the other guy is, on their shoulders, and his hand is like covering like half their torso.
No, yeah, find that picture if you can.
I won't.
But no, this is a great, like you said, mandate proof. It is kind of funny how he has his entire cabinet here, because I know Kash Patel was there as well.
Mm.
Yeah, right behind him. So all that they do the cabinet. They do the cabinet meeting on a Friday, and then they all get on the plane and fly to the UFC fight. Little team building exercise. This is the porno thing I want to show.
Could you see yourself supporting Democrats?
Yeah, absolutely. One thing about me, which drives me crazy, I vote for Trump. I support him. I was never like some crazy MAGA guy. Like I look at each candidate and I choose who I like. I think the left and a lot of even
the context of this, by the way, is this is the morning where Trump, I believe, said now's a good time to buy. Like everything was down and it was before it went up. So there's a video later in the day from his live stream where he's like freaking out in a good way because he made like $10 million or something. But right now he's kind of like, I was never a mega guy, you know?
What they did with, I want to say, hiding Biden's mental state and not having a primary really drove me to the right. So I am not somebody who would just strictly vote based on Republican or Democrat. I vote on the people running, how I think they speak to me, the issues that are important to me. But yes, I will vote how I feel is the best interest of what I believe in.
Could you?
Of my money. Okay, so I just thought it was funny. He freaked out when Trump walked by. Where's the thing you got? Did you find
I
it?
just sent you, that picture. Yeah. It's amazing that he just walked right by Cheryl Hines and she had her hand out. That makes me feel bad. I mean,
holy shit.
I mean, look at that. That hand. I mean, it looks like AI did something to Shaq's hand. But
that's insane.
Yeah. I mean, dude, he's enormous.
He's so big.
7'2" and like 350 pounds.
It's kind of incredible the guy can't shoot free throws when you got hands that big. Like he could probably just like stick his hand up and like flick his wrist and put it in. Just don't get it. Crazy, man. All right. Should we do some rants or something?
Yeah.
Hit that thumbs up, everybody, if you don't mind. Maybe I'll see if we got another. We can do one more studio ad and not completely blow it. Oh, we have to wait 10 seconds. Is there anything real pressing you want to say in 10 seconds before we can do our next ad?
Someone in the chat noted that Trump went back and did talk to Cheryl Hines.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah.
She won't be super.
I don't think he was dissing her intentionally. It was just a sad moment.
It's a funny moment. It was funny because she got so offended by it. That's what's so
well, I
funny.
think she looks shocked.
Oh, you know what? We got a good friend Tackrite as an ad here we can read.
No kidding.
Yeah, we haven't seen them in a while. Might as well give them a quick shout out. Military night vision tech released to the public. Our partners at Tackrite are giving night vision binoculars at 50% off today. All you have to do is visit TackriteNightVision.com and claim yours for 50% off today. Visiting the page today automatically activates your discount. Similar military devices sell for over $4,000. However, Tackrite was able to make their similar technology available to public for under $200. These things are flying off the shelves. Last time it got released on Rumble, it sold out, and it took 3 months to get it back in stock. Order today, and it will ship out in 24 hours from New York. Get your night vision today. I do have one of those night vision things. They're great for hide and seek. We'll say that. All right, let's do.
I've never tried one.
You've never tried? Oh, I should bring them to guard. You should remind me, and I'll bring them. I think they're back here somewhere. I'm gonna check our boosts quick. I don't think we did that last week. All right, so we had Bernie Bright on, so he probably definitely did. He's really good about that. We got 1027 JS says, not sure I'll be able to catch the show live, but still want to support the show. Thank you, Joe. That's some real support right there. She's always in every show, always leaving a rant, and then when she can't make the show, she even leaves a boost. It's pretty incredible. Rocky Top Apologist says, John, great meeting you in BB in meeting you in Nashville. You and JB White were very gracious to the folks who came out to see y'all. And I think that's all the boosts. so we can do the rants. There we go. Oh man, right off the rip, Micro Toolmaker. Nice to see you, man. $117. My schedule's been crazy. The things I had to do and promises had to make to get this live. I'm sure it'll be well worth it. Where we go one, we go all. Curious about the things you had to do. You should let us know, but thank you for the rant. That Rosie girl. Hey guys, just wondering if a health and wellness show is in the works now that RFK and Maha are on the scene. There are a lot of canceled doctors to interview. We do have a Maha show on Fridays, and I think it's actually called like Maha or something. It's George Sather's show. Yeah, it's literally Maha News. 39 episodes in. So check it out. Maddie Lynn, 145. Thank you for all you do. You make me sound so intelligent when I have conversations with people spewing nonsense. Appreciate you being realistic, not what we always want to hear, but it's always real. And you guys sure let us know when it's not something you want to hear. Oh, did I just lose Chris? Lost him. Where'd you go?
I accidentally swiped across my the touchpad thing, and it took me back out of the studio.
All right, I forgive you this one.
Like a dumbass.
All good, bro. The Abe Theory. This is the guy who made your hat. New meme hat. Please, sir, can I have more gruel? Chris Paul. Looking forward to seeing that one. Keith O'Higgins. George Webb has broke a story about Carter Page wearing a wire with Trump that makes Kevin Kleinsmith innocent, and it flips Bongino's Spygate thesis on FBI. Maybe Carter Page has no good name to reclaim. I'm not sure if I fully trust George Webb. If he's who I'm thinking of, I feel like I remember some.
Could be cool to. I mean, I'd at least hear him out though.
For sure, I'll check it out. I'm just saying, if he's who I think he is,
I think he is who you think he is.
Okay. Ready to Rumble, Chris. Is the Doomsday Book the same as Pete's? Yes, it is. The Abe 3021. Nothing can stop what is coming. I feel like we had a really good joke based on that recently. I don't remember what it was.
I can only hazard a guess, and I will not.
Okay. A Reaver Heart 29. Last primary, I turned in my paper ballot. That's how you spell ballot. As I placed it into the scanner, I looked at the precinct worker and asked, how do I know this is counted correctly? She said, you have to have faith. That's great.
Oh man, I was doing some of the Save Act coverage on the show yesterday, and it always amazes me that when congressmen are speaking in favor of legislation like this, they're like, we need to restore people's faith in the integrity of our elections. Like, no, you need to fix the elections. Yeah. It's not like people's trust in the election system. That's the goal, to get people to trust it again.
Screw that. I don't know
Fix
if there's anything that's going to
give us real elections. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I don't know if there's anything that's going to do that though. Like I can't conceptualize anything they could do to make me trust the election system. Keith Hawkins, I think Quast uses trickle charge to get boomers with prostate problems excited. I missed one here. That's a good one. Susie Q 2021 leaves a Q drop. Why was the EO put on ice to wait for the release of the Clinton investigation portion of the IG report? Don't know which EO they're talking about. Probably have to click the link. I'll check that out later, though. Thank you. PJ Corrigan, I proposed to General Quast a penny for your thoughts. He told me that it would cost a quarter, but sadly, I only had a pair of dimes. It's clever. I see you, PJ. BSU be my wingman. Keynesian? Oh, yeah. Keynesian economics is meant to not make sense. Look to the Australian school. The fiat standard by Safedine Amos makes everything much clearer.
So that's Keynesian, Austrian, and yeah.
And safety. And I don't know any of these things, but I'll check them out.
He's the guy that wrote the Bitcoin standard.
Oh, yeah. All right. Yeah, I'll check that out. Thank you. Sunny Peach, see previous. See previous what? I don't see anything previous other than BSPY wingman. Keith Higgins, the big beautiful budget deal would actually cut spending if release of funds is tied to a Doge audit. A line item veto tied to spending accountability eliminates vendor and contractor corruption. Well said. Good point. He thinks one more year and Kia Trump can smell meme coins and rug pull mega perverts. Funny, but not funny. Mindy Q, you toilet, aka YouTube, just suspended your channel for policy violations. No way. Let me see. Is that true?
I think it says stream suspended for policy violations. What did we even talk about that was bad?
I don't even know. It says still.
Oh, you know what? I bet that they I bet that the algorithm picked up content from UFC.
Oh, I bet that's what it was. Because we should be live right now. Nudist. Yeah, we're live. What are you talking about? Maybe
Hit that link though. Did you? Oh, you did it open?
Yeah.
Oh. Huh. Weird.
That's weird. Anyway, that's all the rants. So, you got any good outro videos?
Man, the one you guys used last night. Wait, did you use it last night on Liberty Den? Was that the outro? The cartoon about the influencers?
Yeah, I'm not opposed to using that again.
That's a great one. Yeah, I would go with that. I think that's hilarious. I think they're so dead on too.
Oh.
I mean, the number of people out there and it's good that we have force multipliers like making messages go broadly.
Yeah.
But God, the churn of content specifically to just get the attention and the clicks and the likes and the follows is just exhausting.
Yeah. And people do it in different ways for different reasons. It's not just for like the money and the Elon posts. They do the same thing with the unity stuff, like sucking each other off for in the name of unity. It's so stupid. So stupid. Like you can't have any opposing ideas. Just
cult tactics.
Yep, 100%. But yeah, we'll close with that because maybe people haven't seen it. If you have seen it, you need to see it again. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Hit that thumbs up. I think we have a couple shows on the network tomorrow. So make sure you guys tune in for those. Chris, when are you back on? Tuesday?
Tuesday night with Burning Bright for Story Hour. Yeah.
Awesome.
We are doing Top Gun Maverick this week.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
That'll be a good one. I might actually tune into that show then.
There you go.
Wait, Ash sent me something. Maybe this is a video. Oh, is it the I think it's that Chinese video thing. Have you seen that?
Wait, I don't know. Oh, that one's amazing. And did you see the video that CanCon put on Daily yesterday of like the fashion show of all the world leaders and their response to tariffs or something?
No.
It was incredible. I don't know if he's watching now, he can drop it in the chat. But let's watch that Ghibli animation video and then maybe this one or the other one.
Oh, so we're gonna do multiple. I mean,
I don't know. This one's so fun. Or we can just do this and we'll get out of here.
Yeah, we'll just do this. I already have it pulled up.
All right, cool.
But now we got videos lined up for next week, so you just got to remember.
There you go.
Okay. See everybody. You guys have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll be back Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern for the Daily Herald.
Wow, you have a lot of followers on X.
I know.
How do you do it?
Well, it wasn't easy, dude.
I bet. What's your secret?
I upload other people's photos and videos, and Elon shares my posts.
You what?
I upload other people's...
No, I heard you. So you just upload other people's content to your account?
Yep, I'm a content creator.
Okay, but what do you do?
I upload other people's photos and videos.
I know, and Elon shares your posts, but what do you do?
I upload...
Dude, I know what you do. I'm asking you what you do besides uploading other people's photos and videos.
Well, I mean, I copy and paste other people's quotes.
Okay, but what do you do?
I post other people's photos and videos.
Do you have any skills at all?
Yeah.
What?
I post other people's photos and videos.
Okay, so you're telling me that you're a big account, because you upload other people's photos and videos and Elon shares your posts?
Hello? I copy and paste other people's quotes.
What the fuck?
What?
Dude, do you realize how insane that sounds?
What sounds insane?
That people follow you and think you're awesome because you upload other people's content.
People subscribe to me monthly too, bro. I work hard. I deserve it.
So you're telling me you have no creativity? No originality?
None.
And you provide nothing of your own for the world?
No, but I mean, I work really hard, though.
By doing what? Uploading other people's videos?
Bro, do you even know how hard it is to upload someone else's videos?
No, I have no clue.
Well, it takes me like a lot of minutes, dude.
Oh, yeah?
And then I gotta re-upload the videos to my account. And I have to wait for Elon to share my post. I mean, it's like a couple hours out of my day, bro. Major inconvenience.
And you earn money for this?
Fuck yeah, dude. A lot of money. Way more money than those poser original account content losers.
And you feel you deserve to get paid for this?
Well, yeah, I work hard. And hard work pays off.
Well, I mean, do you at least give any money to the accounts that you've stolen from?
Why would I do that? They didn't do anything.
I'm done.